It's 64. Flashback 64.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Flashback 64, the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast. I also should say we live on a main street, and sometimes motorcycles drive by like crazy. So
Especially because the weather's nice.
yes, it's the first nice week here, so probably edit a lot of those out. Actually, I'm very excited because it turns out this is our 1-year anniversary as a show, and we're really excited to have brand new guests on this episode. We have from the Fun and Games podcast, Matt and Geoff. Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Hi there. Thank you for having us.
So happy to be here.
When we started doing it, I was like, oh, it's a 1-year anniversary. So thanks for joining us for, I guess, this special episode.
Yeah, no, I'm honored. We're here for a milestone. That's fun.
It's not often Geoff and I get to cause trouble on someone else's podcast. The Super Pod Saga has made that mistake, I think, more than once at this point. And so, yeah, when we're on our podcast, we're on our best behavior. But now,
absolutely.
all bets are off.
Let the hair down a little bit.
As it were.
I don't think I introduced us. It's I'm Gooey. I got so taken back by the motorcycle. I'm Gooey, and I'm here with McKenna, as always.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good.
It's good to be here. I'm also recovering from being sick, so.
We had a nice triple feature today.
We watched 3 different versions of the same James Bond story today on film and television. So I've just been in a weird headspace, but
Incredible.
1 year, it's a milestone. I'm excited. And one thing we like to do when we have new guests on is to just in general get their backstory with the Nintendo 64 itself, the console itself. So where have you encountered the Nintendo 64 in your life?
So, I mean, I've told the story in a few places, but I've had the N64 since launch, and I have a bit of an origin story with it. So if you've listened to the Super Mario 64 episode of Side Quest, which I did, which I think was one of my earlier episodes, not the earliest, but one of the earlier ones, I get into... That game is the game I got with my N64, so it's tied to that. It's tied to a lot of things. It's tied to my Jewishness. I got it as a bar mitzvah gift, which was really exciting. And it was one of those things where the N64 was on the cusp of when gaming pre-orders happened. Like, it was before GameStop. You know, I think there was still Funko Land, but it was mostly Toys R Us with, like, this back closet and a little counter, and you would, like, go to get your games and your consoles. And I had no idea about reserving consoles. This is the first console I think I was going to get at launch. Everything else had been like after it came out. And I was like, I don't have a pre-order. It's sold out everywhere. But I begged my dad to take me to Toys R Us. Maybe this time they'll have it. And so we go. It's a few weeks after my bar mitzvah. We're asked at the counter. There's a guy who could have been 40 or he could have been 17. Like, I couldn't tell you. Had facial hair. Who knows, seemed completely aloof and disinterested. And I asked, do you have an N64? I would like to buy one. And he went, I don't know. Let me go check in the back. Time passes. Comes back out. I found this one. I don't know if it's for pre-order, but you can have it. And sold me that and sold me the Mario 64. I was over the moon. And then I got home and on my tiny tube TV played probably 8 straight hours of Super Mario 64.
Yes. Wow.
And to this day, it remains probably one of my favorite games of all time, mostly because of that tied memory. And because it is an excellent game. But yeah, that's my like origin with the N64. And then, of course, I played it all through its life cycle, had a ton of games. Though doing podcasts like yours, realize how little of the library I actually owned, because there are so many more games than I realized.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But that's like my as brief as possible history with the N64, at least the early days. What about you, Geoff?
Well, how does it feel to be part of someone else's villain origin story when you took their pre-order, Matt?
Right? Someday that person's going to find me and be like, it was you!
I waited for months. I had my pre-order slip, and it was gone.
And now you're on record.
Like, hell yeah. So my N64 origin story or time with it is so much more everyone else's N64. During that console generation, I was a PlayStation kid. And it was the PS1 was the last time for 3 console generations, the last time I was up to date. Forever after that, I was like a console generation behind, very much used games, get those things kind of thing. And so the N64 didn't quite enter into my house until years later, but I played it plenty because just because I didn't have it didn't mean I didn't have other nerdy friends with N64s. So I ended up playing mostly multiplayer games. I wish I could tell you probably either Mario 64 or Cruisin' USA were the first games that I played. I remember being foolishly like fascinated with Cruisin' USA. I think I just really liked the little easy cheats you could do to like race as a bus.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
man.
the whole like, yeah, whoa, 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 choose a car. Like all of the sound bites and everything. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Look at all the funky things I can do. And yeah, so a lot of like one of my friends in particular will, you know what, I'll get to that part later because it does pertain to GoldenEye. But yeah, for the most part, I do now have an N64, and my spouse was one where if I grew up with the PS1, she grew up with the N64. So it's a very fun kind of thing nowadays where there's a lot of games and a lot of titles where she's like, okay, no, you please play Donkey Kong 64. No, please keep playing Donkey Kong 64. Why are you angry? Please keep playing Donkey Kong 64. I swear it's
pushing
fun.
you along, yeah.
Yes.
So you like kind of fill in each other's like blind spots a little bit.
Absolutely. She introduces me to all kinds of incredible collectathons and games like that, and I definitely have the whole like JRPG lineage thing. So it's a lot of we kind of get to show each other our favorite games, and yeah, it's a nice thing.
When I was like back at the time, I was like insanely jealous of the kids who had the PlayStation. So if it's any consolation, like I think it probably made you the cool kid at the time.
Very few things made me the cool kid at the time, but thank you. I did like my PlayStation though. That is it's probably one of my favorite systems. That whole console generation is probably my favorite. It helps that I was like 9, 10, 11, 12, like that perfect age where the nostalgia is the sweetest, but it's also such a weird wild frontier of game development where 3D gaming really got into the mainstream, into people's homes. Nobody knew what they were doing exactly. There wasn't standardized design ideas. And so you would get all kinds of big swings. And you guys here are living all of that and looking at all of these games and seeing some games where you go, they got it in one, and others where it's a great historical artifact. And both are worth looking back at and enjoying.
You just made me think. I was listening to your podcast, the retrospective you just did on the 360.
Yes.
And one thing you brought up that made me think of the N64 was you were talking about the gaps between console generations and how like big they seem. And I feel like this was the biggest one, and it felt like, again, maybe it's because I was that age, but it felt like the possibilities were endless. Like it was a new frontier or something like that. And
undoubtedly,
it kind of has diminishing sort of returns as they go on.
It was a lot more refinement happening after that, which shouldn't be diminished. But this was a generation of big swings, and it shows. Sure.
Yeah, we are pretty much. You nailed it with like game to game. Like some are like, oh boy, okay, I don't know about this, but then I don't know. There's charm to be found in a lot of them, with even some of the misses. So
absolutely,
it's a fun. I was just saying to one of our former guests, Andrew, that like I feel like we're on sort of like a magic school bus sort of ride, like it's even like the bad games we've never heard of, like it's kind of magical at sometimes.
Like we should remember Quest 64, okay? Like please, let's.
I know. That's one where obviously there's so much like meme stuff about that now, and I'm excited to get to some of those games.
Yeah, exactly. They were fun at the time, and I mean, again, with the wild frontierness of it all, nowadays we all have these very solidified, reified opinions of these games. Like you know what the short term, the shorthand kind of opinions of them are, even if it's been 20 years since you've played them or you've never played them. And it's worth going back and actually developing some opinions about the thing.
Yeah, and like trying to put your mind in like the time and think what people were thinking about it, what the people making it were thinking about it.
Yeah. I love that you were doing this in chronological order because of that
you.
sense of context. You're taking on a hell of a task here, and you're giving people context for it, which is great.
Thank you. Yeah, and what helps is that we have great guests along the way who kind of help fill in even some more of the blanks, because like for the both of you, what I like to hear is you have very vivid memories of like actually getting it. Like I remember like having it, and I actually even remember owning the consoles I owned before it, but like I was still so young that it kind of blends together. I don't have that like, aha, I've got the N64 type moment, and McKenna was born the year it came out, so it's good to have year before.
Look,
sorry.
You could just say I'm old. It's fine. I've accepted it. I did say I was 13 when I got it, so compared to everyone else here, I'm an old they, and it's okay. I'm all right with it.
Yeah, now that we
Queer
got
is ageless, so it's fine.
Thanks to all the old heads for coming on. Yeah,
exactly.
Happy to do so.
So before we talk about the game at hand, one thing we like to do is go back and talk about what was going on at the time the game came out. We sort of flashback, talk about what was popular, any sort of news. And so I guess for our flashback segment this month, we actually aren't going too far ahead in time. Our last episode left us at August 22nd, 1997, and GoldenEye came out on August 25th, 1997 in North America. So we have the same top 5 songs. We've got Mo Money, Mo Problems, then I'll Be Missing You, Quit Playing Games with My Heart.
Classic.
Yeah, Semi-Charmed Life, Third Eye Blind, and Two Become One by Spice Girls. So
wow,
we're still rocking it. It's still great playlist that we have going sometimes. Number one albums are all returning number one. So No Way Out, Men in Black, the album, is still up in the charts.
Ooh, yeah.
The Art of War by Bone Thugs and Harmony, Spice by the Spice Girls, and Middle of Nowhere by Hanson creeps back into the top 5 albums. So always good to have some Hanson. Good for them. Yeah. Mbop has taken the world by storm.
People forgot they needed to ask again, where's the love? Got to get it back up there.
Where's the love? Yeah, so soulful. The number one movie at the time was G.I. Jane, the Ridley Scott directed
the
movie.
Demi
Moore, Viggo Mortensen. We watched that the other day. Viggo looked great, all sweaty with the mustache, I thought.
Yeah,
in his
early
shades.
Viggo appearance.
Young Viggo. It's a lot of Demi Moore getting all messed up and screaming, and
yeah,
it's cool.
Really grimy.
Lieutenant, seek life elsewhere.
Suck my dick.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot for like news because a couple days that happened and I was looking around, I didn't really see anything interesting. So, but that's okay, because it's not only is it like a milestone for us, we're kind of reaching a milestone in the N64 library, so we give us a little bit more time to talk about it. So McKenna, why don't you set us up so we can talk about GoldenEye 007?
GoldenEye 007 is a first-person shooter game developed by Rare and based on the 1995 James Bond film starring Pierce Brosnan. You'll navigate a series of levels at the Agent, Secret Agent, or 00 Agent difficulty levels, completing certain objectives, with the number of objectives increasing as the difficulty level does. Most of the levels follow the events of the movie, with 2 additional bonus levels that draw inspiration from previous Bond films. The game features lots of different weapons, including knives, explosives, and guns, some of which are silenced or can be dual-wielded. Sometimes you'll have to use gadgets, like the laser or electromagnetic watch, to complete objectives. In multiplayer, you'll go head-to-head in a deathmatch with up to 4 players. Multiplayer also adds in unique levels, weapons, and playable characters, as well as modes named after different Bond films, such as You Only Live Twice, in which each player gets 2 lives.
It's a big game to like try and sum up succinctly.
Yeah, I tried to get the main points in, and then we can get into it now.
Matt, if you'd like to go first, just overall, GoldenEye 007. How has that game been in your life?
So I got it the day it came out. I loved the movie. So because of my age, like GoldenEye was my Bond. Pierce Brosnan was my Bond. I was just old enough for it to be one of the first ones I saw in theaters. And like I knew the Sean Connery movies and a few of the older ones, but I don't watch a lot of those until I'm much older. And so I was already a fan of the movie. And so when I knew there was going to be a game coming out, I was like, all right, this should be fun. But then hearing about the multiplayer, reading about it, and I'm sure it was in Nintendo Power if I had to guess, I was like, oh, multiplayer, that could be fun. Because I mean, I don't know about for other people, but for me, having an N64 and all 4 controllers, this thing was a multiplayer box for me. Like I liked the single player games, but I played it more often when I was playing Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, like whatever the multiplayer games were, and this was no different. So I got it when it came out. I played it obsessively with a lot of friends. I really liked the story mode, but I was really in it for the multiplayer. And like I have a fun, quick anecdote about the multiplayer. So I used to play it all the time with my friends Roy, Gil, and Jason. I had known them, I think, since grade school into high school, and we'd been friends for a long time. Played a lot of other games together, and we played this game a lot. And I was very bad at it, as I continue to be mostly very bad at first-person shooters. I enjoy them, but I've admitted that the skill is not there. And so we'd play multiplayer, and I was always very bad. But I never felt as bad when I played with this group because my friend Gil was like inhuman. Like he was a mutant. He was a superhero. He was like unbeatable. And so we would often play where it would come down to the 3 of us having some kind of shootout while Gil was stalking us. One of us would be left, and he would run around the stage while we fired at him until we emptied a clip. And this game, famously, reloading wasn't super fast, right? It was one of the earliest games to do this, so that animation took its time. And so while you were out, and famously also, if you fired the gun when the clip was empty, before you reloaded it, you would like click, 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 like it would click like there's no bullets. And so Gil would wait till you empty your clip, you start shooting nothing, and it makes the clicking sound. Then he would go click, 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 and then pop. Just take you out. And it was just embarrassing and like humiliating, and yet we continued to play with him all the time. And so yeah, that's my like.
Discourage you.
No, we would beat him up afterwards. Not really, but like just be like, all right, yeah, you want to click, 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 come here.
And that's the joy of couch co-op. Yeah, you're accountable for your actions.
It's true.
It's kind of nice to have that because like I recall. Different game, but my friend group had one person who was like pro level at Smash, at least in our minds. Sure. Mm-hmm. But in a game like this where you're all kind of playing together and it's a bit more wacky and not that competitive, a game like this is sort of helps. It almost made us all better because we wanted to try to beat him, but also like if we lost, it wasn't that big of a deal because we could either try to team up or like there's enough like cartoonishness that it didn't make you mad or like want to smash the controller or anything. But maybe it made you really mad. I don't know. No,
not really. I mean, we like any teenage boys, you play fight. Because I still thought I was a boy at the time. We all learn. But it's like the strongest memory tied to GoldenEye for me is playing multiplayer with my friends and specifically that friend group, though I played it with many other people as well in my life. Like I said, I like the story mode, but most of my stronger memories about the game now are from modern knowledge and experiences. And then I'll toss it to Geoff. We had the absolute pleasure, I think several years ago now, of interviewing one Grant Kirkhope, who is a legendary composer, and this, of course, is one of his earliest games. And he is one of 3 composers on this game, and like some of the best things about this game are the music, among other things. And so, like, to have that full circle moment of having Grant on the show and getting to talk to him about this game and Banjo-Kazooie and even the more recent Rabbids games, like, it was just really exciting and felt like a very full circle moment since this game was so important to me growing up.
What was that like for you, Geoff? Did that have the same effect on you? Was this a big game for you?
Again, I didn't really have it in my own home until I had an N64 in my home, and that was easily college. That was probably like early 2000s before I ever had an N64 of some kind. And so before that, it was always multiplayer, and in particular at one of my friends' houses, who this human, he just really likes using cheat devices and really likes breaking games. And certainly when we were kids, like, I learned everything I know about Game Sharks from him, kind of thing. Like, what weird things can we do? What strange things? It's, when Mario Party came out, he unlocked everything by setting it to 4 computer players, the most amount of turns, and just let them play. And then we just hung out and did other things. Like, this was... I have never known a person more likely to have, like, the cartoon child owner of a casino kind of thing. And this is the person who's like, let's play GoldenEye. So, needless to say, I did not win any matches. But to be fair, it was very egalitarian about cheat menu stuff. It just meant that no one played Odd Job, and everyone would just get weird. We would figure out weird modes of play, like everyone has golden gun, 1 shot, 1 kill kind of thing. Everybody is, and I mean, again, like, you only live twice or any of those other sort of modes that went on. GoldenEye multiplayer actually was so cool in kind of having those rule setups, because you do something over and over again, you do start making up dumb rules about it. And so, it was like only rocket launchers, only the watch, only karate chop, whatever it was. We'd like pick a weapon, everybody picked a bond, and we just would run around wailing on each other. There was no strategy. So going back to it now as an adult, I'm like, was I always this bad at the controls? Probably. I probably was.
For like refreshing, like, what did you play? Did you just play on NSO or on N64 or...
I did a little bit of both, actually.
Okay.
I started on my N64 playing it, and I'm going to be honest, I was getting really frustrated on single player. I'm also, for everything Matt said about their skills on first-person shooters, I'm worse. And speaking again about historical games, about, how far we've come, standing on shoulders of giants, everything else, it is... If you're even partway used to using 2 joysticks to move around in any 3D space, let alone a first-person shooter, to then have to use the C sticks, or not the C stick, the C buttons, because we're not at the C stick. This isn't the GameCube; it's buttons. And so I didn't realize how ingrained in my head it is to, the left joystick strafes. No, in GoldenEye you turn, and so I maybe made it to the end of the first series of missions and went, oh, it's on the Switch. Is it any better? It's a lot better. Even like it is still a little bit, it was a little bit of I'll admit it. I definitely turned on invincibility to play through the game.
Right on. No shade.
I just wanted to see it, and I actually really enjoy the amount of strange things you can do in the game. Like, they let you get away with a lot. It's great. They let you fuck around and find out.
There's like the endless amounts of cheats and things like that. The controls are, I mean, we've sort of had a thing with that through a lot of games that have modern versions, and then we play on the N64 as well, and how it's different. And there's like one thing too that I've kind of noticed. For me, I actually feel like I had a better time playing it with the N64 controller. Like, it felt comparatively, it's a similar thing we had with Mario Kart 64, whereas I feel like the game, I'm not like good with the technical things, but it feels like the analog stick on the N64 controller works better with how you control the characters in that game. And when I was playing on Joy-Cons, if things feel like a bit more sensitive. I don't know if you sort of got that feeling.
I think you're right. I think the mapping the C buttons to the right stick on the Switch, you do run into a lot of sensitivity issues on that, because I don't think they accounted for any of it or compensated for it. So you've got button pushing kind of, okay, we got to like make this really go. And then you put it onto an analog stick and it just gets wacky.
Yeah.
And no, and I would definitely agree. I don't want to play Mario Kart 64 on the Switch. I love playing that on the N64. And that's the multiplayer game that is most often played in my house. That's one that Sarah loves to death and is her favorite Mario Kart, period. Meanwhile, I told her, like, I'm going to be on here, so I should probably play through the single-player campaign of GoldenEye. And I quote from her, "There's a single player?"
Wow.
She wasn't being cute. And I think the I guess, flip on it, I agree. It is less sensitive and wild on the N64, but I think there's a certain amount of either cleanup or something that they do for the NSO where I felt a little less lost. Not even in terms of objectives, but I definitely have that first-person shooter problem of somebody shooting at me, where are they? And I am going to flail.
Oh, yeah.
So I found it a lot easier to kind of get my bearings on Nintendo Switch, whereas N64, it felt a little more in control. And I hope that makes sense to somebody, because that's the only way I could sum it up.
That is a little bit more just things are fuzzier in general on the N64 for sure.
I think so. That's sort of the yeah.
The multiplayer is obviously, for my history on it, it is very similar. Like I had this game, but I feel like I don't know if I ever played it much on my own console. Like everyone in my town basically had this game, so I have a lot of memories of going over to a bunch of different kids' houses and playing it. And I was usually the worst at it because I was like 7 or 8, and then I was playing against like 13-year-olds. So like I didn't know what I was doing, but it still blew me away. And then I even had like, there was one group of kids where a few of them like really were into the movies in general, not even just GoldenEye, but the movies. So they kind of like introduced a lot of that to me. I also learned a lot about like horror movies and stuff from them as a kid.
Cool.
I think of more fondly of this as like learning about movies from these older kids than actually playing this game, because I've mostly got my butt kicked. But
I mean, there's a lot of tie-in video games, or even I remember like card games and things like that, where I learned so much pop culture from those. Yeah, much like Matt, GoldenEye was the first Bond movie that I ever saw. The timing worked out, and it was definitely the first good one in a while. And my family wasn't exactly a big house for Bond films, so this was the first one that I saw. And getting to play this, it was, I'm vaguely aware that, everyone's talking about Pierce Brosnan being the new Bond, so there were previous actors. Who are these other guys? Okay, cool, that's who they are. Wow, they did a lot of stuff. And you get that education as well, so it's a useful historical tool.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing you mentioned about the controls of like how you almost have it hardwired into you, that how the dual stick works.
Yes, that's so codified now.
That's an example I always use where, like, I overall like think there's been a lot of like overall iterations, improvements as games go on, but I think there's a value to the way certain old games control, even if they're viewed as like clunky or something by modern standards.
Yes.
And there's a certain level of like, yes, it's just they've just objectively improved a lot of things, but there's a certain subjective it could be nostalgia fuzz to it. But one example I always think of is with this game is I have a friend who, if I played them in this, I wouldn't even stand a chance. I wouldn't even hit them once at all, like, and they're just like a god at it. But if we were to play Halo, like, they couldn't even walk. Like, they just couldn't even play the game. And so I just think, like, I don't know if it's a matter of, like, they're unwilling or something, but I think for some people, like, certain play styles, like, click more. So I always think of that when comparing, like, I don't know, tank controls and Resident Evil to how the modern games play, or something like that.
Come up a lot nowadays in modern indie horror games that are throwbacks to this generation of gaming. You are running into games that use tank controls. Crow Country is going to be coming out in about a month, and they have the option between them, and that's one that's caused a conversation on it. So I think you're absolutely right. There is, and everybody has some kind of nostalgia memory for a certain kind of controls, whatever that might be. And yeah, you may learn the new thing, but if you go back to the first one, it's like riding a bike. It comes right back to you. And I think I got more into 3D control with the DualShock and with 2 sticks and in that kind of a thing. So for me, it's always it's not my native tongue. I think that's kind of what it is. Whatever you learn on first, it becomes your native tongue. And you can learn new languages, but you always think a little bit in how you first learned.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and I will say this very much in GoldenEye's favor, this was something I noticed in playing through the single player, even after I turned on invincibility. And speaking to time and context, whatever else, it's one of the quietest, like, first-person shooters or stealth action games or anything that I've played in a long time, because it was the N64, so they weren't going to cram a whole bunch of audio clips on there. I was definitely thinking of Metal Gear Solid a lot while playing through this. You know, in my head, there's some comparisons there. And you want to talk about a noisy-ass game. That's Metal Gear Solid. They're calling you every 3 seconds to tell you things. And there's communication, and there is meeting up with contacts, and there are completing objectives within GoldenEye. But you can't run in guns blazing. You don't necessarily have the, like, nuanced controls of shimmying up to things or what have you. So there is a certain amount of the way that the music is that is driving yet ambient. The way that the objectives are that add up in, you know, depending upon the difficulty that you choose and as missions go on, that you have to think like a spy. This is the most like spy game. And I've played Hitman. Yeah, I've played, you know, all sorts of stuff where it's like, but this one actually, it's that sort of slow down a little, actually pay attention. They're not going to be calling you over the comm all the time. Games now, it's like, here's the point to your objective. I had so many times where I was like, okay, I know my objective, but how am I going to do that?
Pull the watch up.
But I'm getting shot at by 8 guards. Let me just hit the pause button and stare at my watch for a couple of minutes. This is fine. I love video games. But yeah, you take that extra minute on it and just, it's take a deep breath and you'll find it, and it's going to be, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you made me, like, I don't know how many times have we sat there for minutes with the menu music playing, reading paragraphs of text, like trying to make sure we absorb all the knowledge that the briefs that they're giving to us.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask for McKenna with the controls. So McKenna, you're not a big none of us are first person shooter people apparently here today.
Apparently not.
But this is a genre, you know, that you have basically not really dealt with as much, and we've sort of tracked through some of these early games, I guess, like FPS on console games too, which is the whole thing. How has this compared, just gameplay wise, compared to the other games we played, are Turok and Doom 64?
So pretty much with each of these games, each of these 3, before I started playing, we'd have to sit down and figure out what control scheme to go with, so that I could play it without doing like the whole like translation thing. Like I remember I played Turok with the left-handed controls because it was more similar to what I was used to than the default.
Yes.
Because I actually remember explaining to you when I was trying to play with the default, I was like, I can do it, but I have to like think about it, translate it in my head, and sometimes with things coming at me fast, it's like that split second makes me, you know, mess up.
Mm-hmm.
See, Doom 64, we had kind of all the button mapping, and we
made it close.
We made it work, and I think with that, it was like limited enough in how you move, and like when you're shooting at an enemy, it doesn't matter if they're higher or lower up.
Yes, there's no aiming in that regard, so it kind of does a lot. There's a little bit of auto aiming in GoldenEye, but not like
does some work for you.
Doom. Yeah.
I think maybe the first couple levels in GoldenEye, I forget what we started with, because we tried a couple different things.
We did. I think we ended up actually when we were just playing. So when we were playing, just through the story couch, we were just trading it back and forth. We just played straight up N64 style with the controller and everything. But then the thing we actually did when we played with our friends on multiplayer was if you pick the second control option and you can go on the Switch settings and flip the sticks on the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
And it makes it basically dual stick, though it's where like you can't as subtly aim with the right stick, but it makes it so you move around with the left and you look up and down, left and right with the right stick. But again, it's not as precise. It's not as precise as you hope. You definitely know like this is not the way they designed it to be controlled, but it sort of worked, right?
Sort of a like a trade-off. Like I could understand how it worked when we did it with the Joy-Cons. Like my brain was just like, all right, this is how I'm used to playing games. But I also had like this is way more sensitive, and I'm like,
if you hit right,
trying to aim at something, I'm like, oh gosh,
yeah,
I can't snipe anyone with this.
And they're sensitive about where the bullets hit, so it's not just like hit the target. It's like, no, if I want to go for headshots, you got to be, and the heads are weird.
And we actually go aim mode. It's got the sort of shaky a little bit, so I like that, but it adds some thrill to like when you're sniping someone or something. But it is a little frustrating when you're playing. Like when the actual control is a little too sensitive, you know?
Yeah, and again, this was one where this was the third first-person shooter on the N64, and first-person shooters had been on previous generation consoles, but they were using D-pads for the most part. So this was figuring out so many things. So what sensitivity works? I don't know, ship it. So there we are.
Did either of you have a sense of like, at this time, like Quake was already out on PC? Like for me, I knew Doom. I played Doom, but like Quake, that's when they added in the mouse look, which is kind of the closest thing to how first person shooters are controlled now. Did either of you at the time have a sense of like, because I know some people who talk about GoldenEye were like, yeah, it's cool, but like we really had like the good stuff on PC.
My experience with first person shooters early on is hazy because like it's like Chrono Trigger, Quake, not Chrono Trigger, I'm sorry, Counter Strike, which is not Chrono Trigger, very different. Counter Strike and Quake and Halo and like all the spectrum of games that were not all out at the same time kind of blend together for me over that like 5-year period. But like I definitely played Doom on PlayStation. I definitely played Doom and Descent on PC. My old PC came with Descent, which was this spaceship sort of first-person shooter.
Okay.
But you want to talk about oversensitive controls?
The worst. But like, for whatever reason, like so. I played Doom 64 after GoldenEye because I just didn't even know Doom existed for the N64 until I played it on PlayStation with a friend much later, and went back and bought it. But to me, GoldenEye felt natural because the N64 controls felt natural, and I didn't know what a first-person shooter was. I wouldn't really get into first-person shooters with a knowledge of them till Halo and the first Xbox, and that was also through multiplayer. But like, so to me, the controls were pretty inherent just because I was like, all right, I guess this makes as much sense as anything else. I will say, however, I got big brained, and I have PC Game Pass, and so with PC Game Pass, you also get access to xCloud Gaming, which allows you to log into an Xbox remotely and play games. And while the GoldenEye remaster wasn't on the PC version of Game Pass, it is on the Xbox version of Game Pass. Ooh. So I did the remote play with my Xbox 360 controller, and the strangest thing about the remasters is, so for those who don't know, we got 2 remasters at the same time. Rare released them from jail, I guess, and we got a 1-to-1 remaster with multiplayer and better graphics on NSO, but the controls are the same. The sloggy controls from the N64, but they sharpened the graphics and put online multiplayer. Huge. The Xbox version that's only on the console, or if you do remote play like I did, they didn't really refurbish the graphics, but they added modern control scheme, and there's no multiplayer. Like, there's multiplayer, but it's local. There's no online multiplayer. Why? Why are these different? They both should have gotten everything. And so I was like, all right, well, I don't have an N64 currently, so I'm going to see if I can get access to it on xCloud. And when I could, I played it there. And so it has dual stick. But the one thing I'll say, and this probably is enhanced by the fact that I dual stick, is it's still some of the tightest gunplay I think I've ever played in a video game. I think only second to the original Halo, which is the only reason I played the Destiny games. Is they're fun, but it's the same gunplay. It just feels snappy. It feels fun, and that's how this felt. This felt very snappy. When you shot someone in the head, they reacted. When you shot them in the balls, they reacted. It was, but the controls felt really tight, and so I didn't end up beating it, but I played pretty far. I think I got through the first main 3 scenarios of multiple stages, and then I stopped. We mentioned it briefly before. There's no map in this game. The objectives are obtuse at best, and I couldn't figure out half of them. I ended up doing it with a walkthrough, and I was like, this just isn't fun with a walkthrough, so I kind of stopped, and then played some of the multiplayer on the NSO version. But having played with true dual stick controls, going to I know Geoff said it was the other way, N64 was tough, and then going to what was closer to accurate on the NSO worked. It was not understanding a foreign language, you were in another country and don't know the language. I play a lot of the N64 games on Switch, but for whatever reason, because I'd spent 5 hours with the dual stick controls trying to figure out the L button is to shoot, not the R button. How do I make this work? And so it really kind of soured me on it. Also, this isn't a long line of complaints about Nintendo. I love the Mario All-Stars 3D collection because I'm a sucker for that. And I love, we talked before, I love Super Mario 64, but playing Super Mario 64 on the Switch just sucks. It's not, the analog sticks aren't good enough. Like you were saying, the multi-tiered, pressure level on the N64 controller specifically is what Mario's run and jump speed was designed for. And they didn't do any tweaking of that. And so it's just stop or full speed, which ruins half of the platforming in Mario. And so I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, but so with controls, it's like going to GoldenEye. It was the same thing. You couldn't sort of look up and down. It's like you said, it snaps because you don't have the gradual of the N64 controller. So while I do enjoy the controls, I could not play through it on the NSO. If I had which I haven't pulled the trigger on yet, but I may at some point, the N64 controller, the wireless one for the NSO, then I probably would have buckled down to relearn the controls. But after spending so much time with the Xbox version, I was like, I can't. And it still kills me to this day that those are separate versions. This is by the same company. It's Rare. It just seems, I guess it's to push people towards one version or the other, but console wars are over, baby. We all have multiple consoles. Why do this stuff? It's
I don't know if there's
frustrating
contract stuff, maybe.
I mean, it could be contract stuff.
I think the Nintendo thing is the NSO they have for games, there's nothing really special about them. They just kind of have the ROMs there. Yeah. And I think their thing is we'll just throw up the ROMs. If they're getting into we're putting up a remaster or whatever, they're probably thinking we'd want to charge for that or something.
But they're still tweaking the graphics a bit. It could just be the emulator doing that, but they're adding it's not easy to add online multiplayer to these games.
Yeah.
No,
I know that because I know folks who code it for emulators on the PC, which work half the time. So that's, I think, what's most frustrating is clearly there was dev work done on both versions, right? Mm-hmm. Adding control scheme to one, adding multiplayer to the other, and yet they still have the two separate versions. It feels very Sega and Nintendo, or PlayStation and Nintendo, we have to have two different versions because they have to be different. They can't be the same thing. We have to compete. It feels unnecessary. And I felt it the most. like I tried to follow along with the catalog, listening to the show and like playing some of the games that are on NSO or other things. And like Yoshi's Story is great on NSO. The port of Doom 64 on the Switch is great. Oh yeah. But this game particularly feels egregious in a way that I feel like the others aren't, because we got that remaster on the Xbox Series X, whatever they're called now.
I'm glad you've played that. I was curious if it like actually felt good to play like with proper like intended dual sticks. So that's good to hear. And I'm glad you said that in general, because when they first released it on NSO, I was a little disheartened because I saw a lot of people posting like this sucks, like the controls are like really bad, like I can't aim at anything. And I was like, I don't know, I hadn't been that long since I played it, and in my mind I knew like, okay, I know the scheme is a little bit weird, a little bit off, but it's like the game is designed to be like pretty playable, pretty fun, like around that control scheme, and I remembered it being good. And then I don't know, would you say like we had both the N64 controller and then the Joy-Cons, and I think it was noticeably different. Yeah, so that's the only thing, but it's hard to like tell someone that and be like, well, all you have to do is buy this controller that costs, then you'll be good.
That's never good advice.
So I was feeling that like, oh, I wish, because we have both the Turok remaster and the Doom 64 remaster, and I'm like, or that like where they tweaked it a little bit, the controls, and I'm like, I really wish GoldenEye had that version so people could experience it like kind of close to how you're supposed to experience it with like an updated feel,
It's funny, like I was going back to this, I was playing it first on the N64, got frustrated and switched over to the Switch. Maybe that is just a true testament to I've always sucked at this game, or it could be, I mean, that's always a possibility, and I'm open to that possibility. Or maybe it was just that was right around the time that I was starting to get used to the nuances of the game. Like, you've also got to hone in on those when you play it, and it just kind of lined up, and so my brain goes, oh, I'm feel more comfortable with this version. Because, Matt, you're right. I certainly don't give the analog stick of the N64 controller enough credit for the design of it. I loved that Nintendo, for both the N64 and then into GameCube, the Wii Nunchuck, that sort of octagonal housing that the sticks got into to give you an easy lock point, and the great sensitivity of it. The problem, however, is because of what a big generation of games this was, sometimes they gave that one little analog stick a lot to do. And I think the analog stick was doing a lot of heavy lifting in GoldenEye 007. And so trying to translate that to other control schemes, you start to see that where it's like, well, let's tweak one little thing. And then the House of Cards falls because there's like a couple little things that are really holding it together. And we all learned on that. And so once you start that, it falls. And so this is where, we still don't have a perfect version of it if you didn't think the N64 version was already perfect.
I feel like they can make $1 million if they just remade it,
it's there.
Well, you say that, but they did remake it on the Wii with Daniel Craig, and it flopped. So, that's the thing. Like, I remember when, I think it was on the Wii, or was that the game? No, I'm pretty sure it was the Wii. It was right, because it was right after Casino Royale had come out. He had signed this contract to do some video game adaptations of stuff, and he also agreed to do this ground-up remake by a different developer of GoldenEye, but starring Daniel Craig and adding new missions and other modes, and it bombed. Nobody liked it. They thought the controls were bad, the gameplay was bad. And that's just astonishing to me, because also this game is interesting from a legacy perspective, because there was Rogue Agent, I know, on 007 Rogue Agent on the GameCube, and then Perfect Dark, which is a spiritual sequel to this, which did do well, and you guys will get to that later. But this lightning never strikes again in the same way for this franchise. Like, when they did From Russia with Love on PS2, it was a love letter to Connery. People liked it for a lot of different reasons, but nothing hit like this. This is the game that launched 1,000 ships for, like you said, Goo, specifically console first-person shooters. This and Doom did the heavy lifting that then Halo would run with, right? Because Halo, I think, is one of the most popular of them of all time because it also introduced online play. But like that, GoldenEye and Doom 64 and Doom on PlayStation walked so Halo could run. And now we have a million first-person shooters, and I think a lot of that comes down to how unique of a position this was for video game adaptations, first-person shooters, like modern blockbusters. It was like a whole lot of convergent points that doesn't really, I feel like, happen again in quite the same way that it happened specifically for this game.
It feels like it's probably hard for that type of lightning to strike twice for especially a licensed product, like something based on a movie or something like that.
Right, and you need to, when making a remake of it, it's very easy to either be myopic or miss the details, forest for the trees kind of situation of what was it that people loved about the game. And so, there is often that thing of like, this game was popular. What can we do to recreate that? And it's very easy to be misled. And it's like, oh, it had great multiplayer, but was it necessarily, or was it because it was the first time we really had something like that? And you now need to recontextualize that in 2010, which is, I believe, when this Daniel Craig GoldenEye came out. And whether that is, which plot points, which elements of it. And again, it was adapting the first so-called good Bond movie in a long time. So there was even that convergence as far as pop culture stuff. And first-person shooters were leaps and bounds every year. Because, Doom wasn't that long ago before that. And, McKenna, as you were pointing out, you don't have to aim up and down in Doom. You just point and shoot.
Isn't that nice? Yeah.
It is. Look, auto aim in GoldenEye saved me so much. And it's it's important for that. And so that kind of recontextualization. So I say there can be a remake of GoldenEye that could gangbusters, be incredible. But you got to keep what works and what you can keep in the year 2024 and what should stay in 1997.
Mm-hmm. I will say that remake at the time, I ate it up. I was all about it.
It got good reviews.
I have no like actual so the thing I'll say, because this is what I recall about it, is that this GoldenEye 007 on N64 is like a cutting edge game. Like there's a lot of things that just you hadn't seen before. GoldenEye 007, the remake, was borrowing from other games like Call of Duty or whatever and making like a mishmash of what's popular at the time and trying to just put Daniel Craig in a GoldenEye storyline. And so I think that made it kind of feel like it was chasing a trend as opposed to like being on top of a trend, which I don't know if you could ever make like a GoldenEye that would capture everyone's imagination in quite the same way, but there's got to be a way to do it without just being like, oh, this is a mid Call of Duty game or something,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think what made this unique, we talk about the single player a little bit, is like the gadgets, right? Like this game, the thing about the N64 is that it wasn't often cinematic, right? It was mostly cartoony games for a younger audience. But when we got games like this and Doom and Resident Evil 2, it was really cinematic. And this game, like, I forgot about the intros to a bunch of the missions, like Bond adjusting his coat or like
the vibes,
aiming with the gun and the vibes with the music. Like, it's so, like Geoff was touching on this earlier, it's so on point. To gush about the work of Robin Beanland, Grant Kirkhope, and Graham Norgate, it's not only some of the best music on this console, but I think some of the best music in Rare's catalog and just in video games. Like, you think about iconic soundtracks, and GoldenEye is absolutely on those lists. And it's not just because the music is good, although so many of these songs go so hard, like unnecessarily hard. But also I think it's because they fit the vibes, because there's less sound effects. It's not run and gun. It is slow. You can listen to the music and the music sets the scene. Like, think about the first time you're in the facility, that like all like kind of drum and bass sound and like the bomb as you're like exploring, like it's all adding to that cinematicness.
And cool use of
Cinematicness?
reverb on the instruments to really get this like sense of space going on.
Yeah.
Because also this was N64 being the cartridge-based console versus these new CD consoles that could fit so much Redbook audio on it, CD quality audio. Oh my God, real instruments, everything else. And you had to work with what you could on the N64. And so having that sense of cinema and having those swoop-ins happening at the start of the stages being in engine, at the end of the dam, the bungee jump, and everything else. All of it happens in engine. So, yes, we can look back on it and go, hey, look at those textures. But it was still so cool. And they were able to make that work because they didn't make them big cutscenes, which I think would have aged it far worse and makes it possible for us to get back to go back and appreciate it for its charm and not have like horrible, take psychic damage from it. And you know what? Speaking of vibes and everything else, I do want to say, I don't know why they needed to do it, but I'm so glad they did. The start of every stage, you have the front camera view of James, and it like swoops around and you go into his first person view. So you can see his little outfits. Extra. How's James dressed up for this mission? Is he dressed for the cold this time?
Part of the movie's appeal, I think, too. So.
Yeah, it's that one little way that they could get style. Would GoldenEye make a good third-person action game? I think nowadays, if you were to remake GoldenEye,
like that.
I think it should be a third-person game. That might be sacrilege. I might hear the drums coming for me now, but
isn't there? It's I believe the developers of the Hitman games, right?
Are making the next Bond. Yeah, IO Entertainment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I would definitely prefer.
McKenna's more of a third person.
Same.
Yeah,
same. Absolutely same.
We were talking about like potential things you could do in a Bond game, and like especially there's so many like different vehicle chase scenes in the films that you could have boats or helicopters or bikes.
In the whole first series of missions, the bit where you've got to get to the plane, I'm like, yeah, cool, escape on a plane, cool. But I was wandering around and there's a tank. And I know the tank comes later in GoldenEye, but I want to drive the tank. And I think having that level of, where, James Bond forever is that sort of like, oh, we're doing spy stuff. And it's a little wacky. Not exactly, but like it walks this fine line. And I think in a video game form, getting to do that, have speedboat chases, have, that kind of almost Grand Theft Auto level of I'm in a helicopter now. What are you going to do about it?
Yes.
But you're James Bond. And like having the third person view, you do get to see the gadgets. You do get that certain charm of it that I think would keep the personality of GoldenEye 007 or any other Bond property into a more modern take on it. And a bunch of that stuff, like the watch stuff and everything else was there in the original.
Yeah. There is some like wackiness just to the game inherently. I think some of those scenes you described, it's like, it's so cool they did it, and then sometimes you look at the models or something and they're doing whatever they're supposed to do. They're kissing at the end, and you're like, this is so silly, but I think it works because Rare did kind of embrace the goofiness of it. Like, even for like when you're meleeing someone, you're doing the old school
judo chop.
You could tell they were just like, whatever, that's funny. Like, let's roll with it. It fits the Bond sort of vibe. It really feels like they loved like the Roger Moore era silliness, especially because they reference that the most,
Oh yeah, you could get the Moonraker. There were many multiplayer Moonraker fights that we had. Like, it was all lasers. Let's go.
Well, yeah, I think it's a smart design decision in the same way that I say sprites hold up better than polygons all the time. Doing the like screen printed faces on these big polygonal heads looks so goofy, but they also kind of look better than if you made a polygonal face, right? Like, think about Crash's early design, and I love Crash Bandicoot, but he looks a little goofy compared to like now the modern versions of him, which are way sleeker and more streamlined. And so, like, it's the same thing here. Like, if they had like made a nose, eyes, and mouth out of polygons instead of doing this kind of like screen print thing, it would have looked really weird. It still looks weird now, but in kind of a fun, comical way because there are also real life actors whose faces are on these characters.
And there's definitely some like off-model action figures that I am certain actors have of their characters. And just like, I keep this just because it's haunted. Does anybody remember, they had a specific name to them, those pro wrestler pillows.
Bash and Buddies.
Bash and Buddies. That is kind of what N64, certainly the GoldenEye models look like. And I think, because they commit to the bit. And what I mean by that is, yes, you have those models. Yes, they're a little ridiculous, but they do them the whole time. The cutscenes are, as I mentioned before, in engine. Yes, your romance scenes and everything else. It's still the same models. So it's kind of, I think if they tried to make like a better looking cutscene of those, A, it would take up way too much of the space, and B, it keeps it all together. It doesn't take you out of it, and you've already been playing the game. And so this is just something that's happening while the game goes on. There's no awkward gear shift that happens. And so even now, so many years on, if you're keying into the game, it doesn't take you out of it. And so it's this really good committing to the bit that I think actually the limitations of cartridges helped make those decisions for a lot of studios and probably for Rare as well. So it's like, well, can we make cool FMVs? We can't fit them. Okay, let's use these guys like little action figures. And that actually holds up better now, because looking at FMVs of early PS1 games and even PC games at the time, those did not age great. But you know what?
Even
GoldenEye's doing all right.
I remember even with some modern shooters, I remember it became like sort of a big deal when they started doing, instead of cutscenes, it would all happen like amongst the action. Yeah, in engine. And it was like, oh, this is wild, we're doing that. And that's like 2 generations later, or maybe the next generation. So it was kind of cool, like, that to see it in this game. You just walk into
a handful of games doing this in the mid 90s already.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, you're in your cell and you're talking to Natalia or whatever. Like, I don't know, pretty neat. You mentioned, I wanted to just get McKenna your take on the music. Like, what? Because, so I guess we haven't said, like, you were like a big Bond fan in general. Like, you didn't know any of the movies.
Yeah, not really.
You knew the Daniel Craig movies?
Yeah, and I had seen like bits of the Pierce Brosnan ones on TV.
Yeah, on TV. Okay, so this was kind of new to you, but the music, it's it's kind of its own. Like, the music in the movies is a big thing, but most of this is kind of its own sort of creation. They use the theme, but a lot of that, the vibes and stuff, they kind of are inspired by GoldenEye the movie in a lot of ways, but like a lot of the instrumentation and like the compositions were unique. What did you think about like the overall vibe of the game, the music, and all that stuff?
Well, one of my favorite parts of like starting each level is listening to the music, seeing what the, what new take on the theme there was.
And I think you kind of mentioned it already, but like when they would just show like different screenshots of something going on in the level, like that kind of gave you sort of a sense of like, oh, what's this room gonna be like? We were kind of like not awestruck, but we were like a little, like, couple ones would come up and we look at each other like, oh, what's that gonna be?
You're drawn in, you're on board.
Yeah,
it's you are properly teased by the teaser.
I think the like outside levels, like the Russia snowy level, kind of stuck out to me because it was definitely like a more like almost haunting vibe,
especially when you come back and it's like the color is different. It's all like
but I think one of the biggest things that stuck out to me was that they made elevator music.
Yes,
with the theme.
They did.
And I was like,
that's so extra. Like,
you're just in the elevator and that's playing and you leave and it's done. It switches to the level music.
Yeah, that was like that's been a thing in all. So this is the third Rare game that we've talked about, and all of them have some level to them where it's like someone got really like into whatever aspect of it they were working on, and they went like above and beyond and just added all these little details. And I feel like this game is chock full of them, but that elevator music is a nice touch.
I personally love when a game soundtrack really plays with certain leitmotifs and has something that keeps coming back. When you have a property like James Bond that has either the sound of the electric guitar or those like specific like licks and melody lines that are leitmotif, I feel like that's absolutely a missed opportunity if you're not having the most fun with it.
Yeah.
because that also is that kind of like, if you don't notice, it just becomes part of it and it feels like James Bond. But if you do notice, you sit there and you go, you goofy, silly Billies. Like, and yeah, it's like, you made elevator music out of the James Bond theme. I love it. It feels so good.
It's like The Watch. We were all looking at it a lot, and like that Bond theme also. It's like another version of it that's kind of like this R&B slow jam version of it, and it's like they got so creative with it, and also, you know, they could have just used the Bond theme in a ton of other places, but they didn't. They like diversified it a bunch, and it made it more interesting.
Sometimes it would like, you wouldn't expect it to come into a song, and it would, and they'd like sneak it in like a clever way, and it's always, I see what you did, like, you silly Billies.
Infiltrated the music.
Ooh.
Matt, you said you were a fan of GoldenEye the movie. When you were playing this, like, did you have that feeling of like, wow, they really like? Did you feel like they captured the essence of the movie in the story mode or the campaign, or how did that work for you?
So, I mean, when I was a kid, I think, hard to really remember. It's a long time ago. But when I was replaying it, for sure, I absolutely felt it. Like, again, it looks goofy, but the damn jump scene, it was a big part of the movie. And so, like, to see it recreated in the game was cool. Or, like, when you're escorting Boris to, like, unlock, like, turn off the servers and stuff, like, all of that. It just very much feels, you know, or even when you first get double-crossed by 006, spoilers, I guess, for an old movie and an old game. Like, you know, it still felt dramatic, even though it's like two stick figures talking to each other and like pantomiming. There was still drama in it. Also, couldn't figure out what to do in that room. Turns out you had to leave it. You set off all the the poison gas, and I'm like, where do I go? It was through the door, you idiot. But yeah, no,
we're used to so many more complicated objectives,
right?
Yes, right. That is funny. But, sometimes it'll just be like escape with Natalia, and it's like, okay.
How do I do that? Leave
the building. But yeah, it did feel like the movie. I mean, admittedly, it's also been quite a number of years since I've rewatched the movie, but like based on my memory of it, yeah, it absolutely was. I feel like it was 1-to-1. I know there are extra missions and they'll like flesh out a few of the narratives, like especially in the in-between time before James gets double-crossed and then like the real mission of GoldenEye starts. But yeah, I think it totally felt like the movie in the best way an N64 game can feel like a movie.
When you think of how many times and ways that other licensed games since forever have been like, yeah, let's adapt this property and completely ignore everything that happened in it and go completely off the rails. This almost felt like, yeah, we're just going to fill in a few pieces and do our best. There's enough action set pieces and it's enough of an experience that doesn't need to be guns blazing the whole time. That, yeah, honestly, it's been an age since I've watched the movie, but it felt spiritually right, which is honestly more than I can say for a lot of adaptations.
I don't feel like James killed that many people in the movie, though.
That's our fault. I mean, I also watched speedruns of GoldenEye 007 in prep for this just because I love seeing how, especially games of this era, like, how are they being broken? So the ways that you don't waste time shooting people if you don't need to, like, kill them to get a key or something from them. And you aren't going to look forward. You don't want to have too many polygons on screen. So most of it is just like, look at the sky, look at the floor, run past things. You'll see like feet sometimes and hear gunfire, but they're fine. And I am absolutely that kind of gamer that is, you've put things in front of me, I'm going to destroy all of them. Playing Link's Awakening for me was, I would destroy every blade of grass on every screen. And I would try to find the most efficient way to do it. So I definitely was a little slow early on in the game. I mean, yes, I was re-remembering or learning for the first time, however you want to think of it, the controls, and I'm just mowing down the troops and being like, they have to run out eventually. They don't run out.
No, some of the levels keep coming, yeah.
They just keep coming, and it took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize that, and I think I'm a monster. Or at least I don't deserve the 00 status. The license to kill is wasted on me.
There's one level I started to pick up on something in. It's like, I think one of the times you go to the bunker, where once the enemies are like aware you're there, they start coming, like not the alarm, but just like you make noise and they start coming. And I started like trying, okay, what if when they come, I'll do slappers on them, maybe they won't hear me and they'll stop coming, and they didn't. But then I sort of had this realization. I went to a different room, and I saw them go to the room I was in, and then they stopped, and I was kind of blown away by this. So I was like, okay, is that like how, like, I get the logic there, you know, that makes sense. Like, oh, they couldn't find me and they gave up. Like, I didn't expect the game to be able to do that. And then I read how it actually worked, which is like it's something like and this is not a technical explanation, I'm not that smart but about this, but all the guards spawn in certain rooms, and if they hear your gunshots, yours, not the other guards, for some reason, they'll come running to the room you're in, and if you kill them, they respawn in the room they're in and they come back after you. So if you can take them out in the room they're in, they won't respawn, apparently. So then I went through the bunker and I was playing on hard mode, and I was just karate chopping everyone until I unlocked the safe and got my silenced PP7, and it was like a million times easier. And that was where I was thinking of like the quiet moments you're talking about, where it's like, I was like, this is not Metal Gear Solid, but I almost feel like it, you know, like I'm sneaking around karate chopping guys in the back.
Right. It's one of those where one isn't aping the other, but it's convergent evolution or parallel evolution on those kinds of things. Now, something I didn't actually try, but now that you've said this, Go, I'm now thinking about it. Do the guards come running if you use their guns?
Yeah, so if you use their guns,
that'd be a cool thing.
Yeah, that would make sense. Like if they had that level, but no, it's like silenced. It won't trip them off.
It's got to be silenced.
There's certain levels like the outside surface, like they're just constantly spawning and running at you, like it's different in different levels, which is good.
Out in the open, it's open season, they keep coming.
I like how it kind of makes each level like keeps it on your toes, because some levels you have the objectives, some it's just like a gauntlet of like run to the end and then run back and kill everyone. So I like there's kind of varying stuff in the missions. What did you think, McKenna? Like, because you hadn't seen GoldenEye before we played it, right? You said maybe pieces of it.
Yeah, I think you watched it a while, like several months ago, and I was sort of watching.
You were sort of watching.
Yeah.
What did you think though? Like, we watched it again after playing it, and I think I recently picked up a copy on VHS. I think we're gonna watch that too. What did you think about watching the movie after playing the game? Were you like, did it kind of, I don't know, connect, like, oh, this was adapted well or not?
Yeah, I felt like the beginning part of it and the end part of it were pretty like spot on, and then the stuff in the middle was like more they took stuff from, or they came up with stuff outside of the source material.
Mm-hmm. But everything, again, from, I think part of the reason, and it works, is there's certain scenes that are iconic in the movie, but Bond isn't actually in them. So I think they were pretty clever about like, okay, well, let's have him go there and like do something. So it was cool, like, way to get it in. To me, some of the places, like, I have this more now because I played the game first and then saw the movie, and I still have this thing where I see, especially in like that opening scene, because I've played so much multiplayer in the facility level, where I see him running around there, where I'm just like, oh, that looks just like the game. And I know they like went there and to the set and like took pictures of stuff. Same thing with the bunker, where it's like, I think it's nostalgia takes over or something, but when I see now, it has the effect of when I'm actually playing the game, where I'm like, oh, I feel like I am like on set in the movie in this low poly version of it. Yeah,
the N64 graphics, like that low poly stuff, it is almost like painted construction paper over cardboard. But as far as memories go, but honestly, they did incredible things with it. And yeah, they hit those points just right. Like whether it's placement, whether it is the texture they did, whatever it was, that it felt great. And it definitely, again, as long as it's been since I've seen the movie, it still felt like the movie in a lot of the key places. You're right. They had those set pieces. And sometimes you just have a periodic like signpost or something where it's like, no, we're here. And you get those like kind of blown away moments that they were able to do that. And that was cutting edge graphics then. And that always needs to be remembered. And the fact that they got that much right.
Yes.
In that needs to be noted because, yeah, it's pretty damn cool.
Just in terms, too, of when we were playing through it together, the difficulty, the way it handles, like, the difficulty, the different objectives, really stands it apart from Turok and Doom, where it's just like, oh, we up the enemy count or whatever, where in this, the actual, like, objectives and things you do get more complex. I feel like when we played it through just the regular agent mode, like it was pretty approachable. There were some that were frustrating. Like there's one I was doing. Yeah. Anyone that involved Natalia not getting killed.
Yeah. Oh my god, so hard.
Escort missions are forever awful.
All the way back to this, you know.
More often than not, it wasn't even the soldiers that killed her. It was me because she walked in the line of fire, and it's just like, well,
we did that.
I guess I'll start this mission over again. I guess.
What did I do in the train?
The train?
I did something in the train level and like soft locked myself.
You know, at the end of the train level where Trevelyan and Xenia, like the thing comes down and blocks you from getting to them. McKenna got on the other side of that wall. And we were just stuck there.
I was like, what am I supposed to do?
Abort mission.
You won. That's what happened. Roll credits.
That's the only thing that makes it a little frustrating is when you fail, you have to bring up your watch, hear the cool music,
and restart the whole mission.
And for some reason, it's less frustrating, like in Doom or whatever, when it's like, I'm just dead. And also I saved. You can save frequently, whereas in GoldenEye, even though the levels aren't really that long, you got to start over. And you know, I think a modern version might have like, okay, you got to the part where you have to defend Natalia while she hacks, like maybe that's a checkpoint, you know, which
it'd be more checkpoint based.
When I started playing on, I'm almost done with playing it on the hardest difficulty, and I'm save scumming, like with save states on my way through it. Of course.
I'm still playing on agent mode, okay? Like,
yeah, same.
Well, yeah, like save scumming is probably the way to go with that for sure.
Yeah, fair. I think I'll have to because I do love that. Like, yes, the fact that it's not just an adjustment of numbers and padding out the enemies. The fact that your mission becomes more nuanced, that there's more points of failure, more difficulty within that. I love that.
I like that.
More games should do that.
There's some level of for you, and it sounded like, and I did this too. We actually bought the game manual, the instruct or whatever, the strategy
the
guide
guidebook. Yeah, strategy guide.
And one thing I like is that some of those objectives they tell you what you need to do, but they kind of say like, hey, you might want to use this tool, but they don't straight up say like, use X here, you know. So I like there's some level of like, oh, I've got to use like my brain to figure this out, but then other times I'm like, I don't feel like figuring this out. It's a little too obtuse or something. So there's a give or take there, I guess.
Yeah, there's always that. And honestly, there's a lot of modern design in indie games where we're kind of returning or taking a new pass on obtuse solutions to puzzles. Because there's a lot more nuance of control that is allowed, so that we're able to kind of have not quite a Sierra game, you did the wrong thing 2 hours ago and now you're soft locked and screwed, but a certain amount of, even a solo developer can kind of give you those sorts of things of that kind of nuance thing of you have a couple of different solutions to this. Maybe a few of these have different things. Oh, you destroyed all of those monitors. Well, now there's no satellite uplink and MI6 can't get any of the data. What did you think was going to happen, James? Kinds of things going on. And it's, yeah, you're right. There are a few points where it goes a little too far. This is history. We can't be perfect on these things. But the fact that there was a bunch of times where, it was calm down, use your brain for a second is kind of remarkable. And this is all on 12 megabytes. I do want to point that out. This is a 12 megabyte cartridge.
Yeah,
96 megabits, but
it's a feat that they really pulled pulled that off, really. One thing you stuck out to me was you were talking about in your multiplayer experience, like kind of how you create your own sort of like rules and things like that. To fit, it's almost like, I don't want to say like handicaps, but something like that to like make it fun for everyone. I feel like
Toy Box.
We sort of had that. We were playing with our friends online, and we all kind of have different skill levels. Like, I think our two friends we're playing with are like really good, and I'm like okay, and you're like pretty new to this sort of thing. So we each kind of
not good at it.
Yeah, McKenna's not good at it, but it's okay. we have like we're all like razzing each other, we're having fun with it, and there's sort of, we did a lot of different things. One, McKenna always played his odd job. Which was just
honestly
fun.
Like that takes care of so many problems.
But then we were like, just some of those modes, they make it so it's not really just about, I mean, typically the same people won, but like for example, capture the flag, even if the one person is like better at it, like the act of all of us running after one person trying to shoot them and maybe shooting each other, like made it so you never are really that frustrated at like oh, I'm losing here, because we're all like the just mad dash of chasing after your buddy was really
it's
fun.
Good old-fashioned chaos.
Exactly. Yeah, or like same thing with the golden gun, a lot of chaos. It's got kind of a party vibe to it. And then we even played one mode where we did the Moonraker, and we did 3 versus 1, and we did points, and we had our friend who we thought was probably the best face the 3 of us, and we thought, okay, well, if he doesn't win, it's not a big deal, because we're just doing it for a goof. Well, he ended up beating us, because it turns, the Moonraker is very powerful, and it turns out he had more targets to kill, and so we got totally trounced by him. It's ridiculous.
I think what's cool about the multiplayer in this game is that not only does it give you custom like rules like slappers only, which everyone played, where you just run around slapping each other until you die, or like slappers license to kill, so it's like the world's deadliest karate chop, or the golden gun, same thing. But like even me and my friends, because you could adjust the each player's health, you could adjust how easily they did or didn't die. We were able to create our own modes. Like the 3-on-1 mode we did when I was growing up was called Terminator. So one person would max out their health and make it like 200% and like low damage reduction, like damage, and they'd be the Terminator, and it'd be rocket launchers and mines only, and or whatever like the high powered guns were, and it would be 3-on-1. You'd have really good weapons, but they'd have a lot of health, and like it was just like, it was a way to equalize it. And I feel like lots of people had like that kind of custom mode that they would invent, because you could do so much with the multiplayer rules in this. It was the era for that. This, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, like you always had a lot of options in these kind of games, and I really appreciated that, specifically about the multiplayer in GoldenEye, is that there was a lot of variety to customize each kind of match you wanted to have.
And they didn't necessarily have to codify rule sets for this. It was just giving everybody a lot of tools and the options to adjust, and letting infinite monkeys at infinite PP7s really just kind of make their own fun.
Yeah. I'm going to steal that Terminator mode. That's really cool.
That's really good, yeah.
It was really awesome, yeah. It was a lot of fun, especially when I got to be the Terminator, because I would still lose a lot of the time, but it was just, you felt very powerful, especially if you picked Jaws like as the Terminator. Just worked really well.
That feels right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Does. I think we mentioned a lot of the modes we played, but did you have a favorite multiplayer that stood out for you, McKenna?
I did like the karate chop only whenever we did that.
License to Kill, especially. We found that after you die, if you're still karate chopping, you will hit them. Like, it's almost guaranteed. Yeah. And we had plenty of moments where literally all 4 of us just killed each other at the same time.
Mutually assured slapper destruction.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the multiplayer. That we're gonna play some more.
Yeah, we also did the capture the flag with the throwing knives.
Yes.
Which was really chaotic.
Ooh.
Because it's really hard to hit with those, so it went horribly. Actually,
I mean,
But it
Klob
was
only
really
is also
funny.
great for yeah.
What's it? Yeah, that was hilarious.
Oh, the other one I really liked is we did remote mines, and we ended up it was really chaotic. There were just some suicides, and
I basically only killed myself in that one. I wanted to do it.
I think when I finally got them, I knew somebody was like kind of coming up from behind me, so I just like led like a breadcrumb trail of mines. And
Incredible.
Just
It's amazing. Similar to that, doing matches with only proximity mines, and we would just all live in fear because we would place ours and not know where anyone else's were. And so in something like the facility, which is so tight, you would just like creep around every corner and be like, wait, is there one here? Oh no. Oh, I'm safe. Okay, boom. Yeah.
Bomberman 007. It's great.
Pretty much, yeah.
That I had almost a similar thing where a big one for me when we were kids is we probably played Facility more than any of them. And a big one that sticks out in my memory is remote mines there, because like it is so tight and you could almost like, there's the different rooms and stuff, and everyone almost kind of developed their own little like bases, and you couldn't approach them because they had mines all rigged up. So you'd have to like try and throw a mine on where their mine is and hope you blow up their mine so you can get through. So it became like a strategic, like trying to break through their defenses.
It's almost like the best adaptation of Spy vs. Spy that we could get in a video game.
Yeah, see, then they were I guess thinking ahead for all of like spy stealth genres. This is gonna be, there's just so much with this game, but I feel like we kind of hit upon everything. Like on top of that, we sort of hinted there's all this bonus stuff they added, all the cheats. This
was a great era for cheats.
Yeah, like like you could fill up the whole list of them, and there's like stuff from just like, I mean, obviously like the DK mode, and we always played with the paintball mode on, just adds a level of fun to it. But then
same,
all the different things, the way it can change the game and stuff like that.
What was it was like the animation mode or something, like it was basically wireframe but pencils.
Yeah. Yes.
That they did to make it look like an AHA video.
Yeah, that's a cool one. They had that in Turok as well. I feel like that's one where it's like that's got to be easy to just throw in there, so you should have
it's probably like a piece of development. Well, that was the thing too, where we would get those cheat menus where you get big head mode in all sorts of games, or some weird like gross change of the characters because you're just playing with models. And so you just, those ones where it's something that would be so much extra work and sprite-based stuff, they were like flexing and having the most fun with it being polygon-based, and you could just kind of like, well, let's just make a weird thing out of it. And yeah, and it was another aspect to throw into multiplayer mode that just made it feel all the more chaotic, all the more yours, all the more whatever it was. It's great.
Yeah, just like, it's almost like too, like seeing something like the wireframe mode is like you peek under the hood and it's like almost like cool because you're like seeing what the game looks like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like in some sort of abstract sense, I guess.
You feel more invested in the game itself because you've seen a little more of it. And speaking of silly edges of things, did any of you ever tilt the cartridge?
No. Is that one of the hacks you can do?
It's not a hack, but I don't know if this worked on any other N64 game, but this was infamous for GoldenEye.
Oh.
If while playing, if you tilted the cartridge just right in its housing and kind of got one bit or another, I never got it right, the models would in place just start flailing wildly. Have you ever seen the Gidon meme?
No, I've never seen this.
This is something where, yeah, you look at this. This is why I felt compelled to ask. Like, I didn't know this would have come up sooner. Yeah, if you tilt the cartridge a little bit, like, yeah, look it up. Look at the GIFs of it. And it is, in place, their feet are off the ground. They are flailing impossibly. It's like some weird, Gravitonium in Marvel, an MCU kind of looking thing where it all just becomes insane and weird in place of what they're doing. And so there was a meme for a while where people would, like, film themselves dancing around and jump and take pictures and then cut it together so that it looked like a regular person was doing what these models would do when you because the game could continue, but the models were just yeah, exactly. If you it's the best I could do to try to explain it. It's like psychedelic flailing almost with just the models doing impossible things. It's doing 1,000 dance moves a second.
That's incredible. That's something that only cartridges could afford us, really.
Yeah, and again, maybe other N64 cartridges could do it. Maybe it was where certain mappers and chips were on the board or anything else. I don't have the technical knowledge of this. This is just something I'm remembering off the top of my head going, ooh, we should talk about this, because this was a piece of the GoldenEye 007 experience for a lot of people on the N64. And the first time that I had GoldenEye in my home, I definitely tried to make this work. I just usually ended up, resetting the game because I was bad at it. But yeah, it's apparently not difficult. Apparently.
We're going to have to start trying that with all our games.
I'm going to try this again probably once we're done recording. I got something to do.
New segment. Did we tilt the cartridge?
Or what other weird it's like a hardware hack or a hardware something or other about it. It's a quirk.
Yeah, but maybe I don't know. There's got to be somewhere that documents games that this happens. We'll have to look at it.
I hope so. I want this.
Well, I think like I said, we're actually planning to do a lot of bonus episodes. We have some lined up with people to dive on certain subjects of this, because I feel like this is just a game where there's just so much you could get into with any one facet of the game.
Agreed.
But it was nice to have both of you on and hear your sort of connection to it. But is there anything else you wanted to say about GoldenEye before we get out of here? I don't want to leave anything unsaid,
I think cartridge tilting was mine there. So cool. Thank you for I cede the floor.
Yeah, I just always want to make sure no one has that moment of I wish I, got to say this about the game, because you'll never get a chance to talk about GoldenEye again.
Never again.
Never.
It's not like we have our own place we can do that too.
What?
What? No, I mean, I think making sure that we shined a light on the music as a music nerd was a big one, and then
Agreed.
the personal stories about the multiplayer and the game modes, being able to share this game mode that I created with my friends that maybe 1 million people do, called the Terminator, but maybe nobody did that, and now I've shared a piece of information on the internet that everyone will do. That I think was my really big one. It's honestly one of the best movie to video game adaptations I think in existence. I think it's safe to say that. I think there are tons of other good ones for sure, but I think for sure this is the pinnacle of an era where they were very good. I think the SNES, the NES, the Genesis all had really good ones, and I think this era, the PlayStation and the N64 had a bunch of good ones and some bad ones, and I think, but this is clearly amongst easily the top 10 greatest movie adaptations for sure, or other media adaptations. And it's special to me because of, again, how attached I am to it,
For sure. Yeah, it was great to hear both your memories about the game. I guarantee we're going to do that Terminator mode next time we play.
Hell yeah.
McKenna, how do you sign off on GoldenEye, or where does it stand for you?
Just a very unique vibe, and
yes,
stands out in the early first-person shooter genre, I think.
Does it stand out in the library? We've talked about this in the early N64 library of certain games feel more they stick out compared to some of the other ones we played.
Nintendo polish.
The Nintendo polish, yeah, is kind of what we've referred to it as. Yeah. We've had sort of Star Fox, Mario Kart, Mario 64, I guess Wave Race was kind of close to that too. Mm-hmm. Does this feel like one of those to you? I feel like we have now, those are the games worth having the console for.
Yeah.
In 1997.
This is a console seller.
A console.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And it was, right? Yeah.
I think it was the third best-selling N64 game, if I'm remembering correctly. That's recollection of cramming Wikipedia.
GoldenEye. Load a rumble pack and see how it feels when 007 meets N64.
We're taking a turn. I didn't mean to do a pun. I'm sorry. For our next game, we have a racing game 3-pack. We're doing 3 games in one. We're gonna fit them in. We're talking about MRC, Multi Racing Championship, Top Gear Rally, and F1 Pole Position 64, which we've already dipped into a little bit. I'm excited to talk about. But Matt, Geoff, what would you like to plug? Obviously, you've got your awesome podcast, but what else would you like to get out there?
Well, I'll let Geoff go first, and I'll let him plug the podcast we do together because I always do it on other stuff, and it's Geoff's turn.
That's
your
fine,
turn.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
take the reins.
Absolutely. Yeah, Matt and I produce Fun and Games Podcast, which is a conversation and sometimes interview show about the culture medium of gaming. We do console retrospectives, we do conversations about a lot of indie games, about a lot of aspects and pieces of our gaming history from the mindset that every game is somebody's favorite and no one can play every single game. And so having our own recollections and our own experiences and coming from that subjective side of gaming is how we find new favorites and find new experiences and deepen our love of this hobby that we all share. And we also produce Side Quests, a series where there's a different host every episode. There are repeats, but really kind of going for this thesis idea that every game is someone's favorite, where it's different hosts for 5 to 20 minutes talking about a game they love and why they love it. It's not about giving a score at the end of the episode. It's not about talking about you need to hit all of these points. It's why is the game important to you? Because more than any sort of journalistic write-up, someone speaking with passion can sell a game. Certainly to me, the amount of games that I've had to seek out now and buy for my retro game collection because of SideQuest episodes that happened is really starting to hurt me. But I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, SideQuest is a great series that I'm really proud of, and GUI fame did an incredible episode on a game that was kind of unbelievable. It took 255 episodes to get to, but on the original Legend of Zelda, which you'd only played recently as of when you recorded, which I thought was pretty cool too.
Thank you for letting me do that. Like, it was cool to be a part of it. Yeah.
You can find Fun and Games on every podcast platform. Wherever you found this, you can find us. I also host another video game podcast called Reignite, which is a BioWare retrospective. We started with the Mass Effect trilogy, then went to Mass Effect Andromeda. Now we're in Dragon Age, and thankfully the first game's almost over because it's rough.
You're almost done with the DLC.
Yeah, although I do love the first game, but more excited for the later entries in that franchise. And you can find that wherever you get your podcasts. I do that with the incredible Frankie Bradley Lestrange. I have a TV movie podcast that's on hiatus right now called Screen Snark, where me and my co-host Rachel Quirky Shank interview a guest and also talk about the most recent things we've watched. There's a huge backlog if you want to go find that. And then, Geoff, you do some VO and acting work as well.
Oh, yeah, but nothing that is sort of seek me out. It's so much more right now of like, listen, there's sometimes an e-learning module that you'll get to where it's just, let's go over this sort of thing. Please click the next button to watch the video. Or if you call somewhere and it's like, we're sorry to have missed your call, please leave your name and phone number. It's a lot of that stuff.
You're like,
but
people listening might one day encounter that and be like, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah, no, it's absolutely. I do a lot of invisible VO work, that kind of thing of, it's not I'm playing a character. It's just you're going to hear me somewhere. But it is a lot of fun. And when, more notable things come out where I'll show it off, you can find me on most social media at Geoff Makes Noise. Geoff is spelled Geoff.
And you can find me on most social media platforms as DJ_Stormageddon, except on Blue Sky because they don't like underscores. So I'm just DJ Stormageddon there.
Ugh, curses.
Punctuation.
Well, awesome. Thank you once again for coming on. It was a great episode. It was great to have you both.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I've been wanting to come on the show for a while. I'm a fan, and so it's exciting to be here.
You. Yeah, I can't recommend your podcasts enough as well. Like I said, I was listening to the 360 retrospective today, where also you were talking about Mass Effect and things like that, and it was
I have a brand.
It fits.
I started thinking about that time in my life in a similar way to doing this show, and it was just cool to kind of like even myself kind of go through like when did I get this, what did I do with it. And so even though I was listening to your thoughts, like it kind of connected to, I remember when I would go over here and play Rock Band with these people and do this, and it's just a nice like kind of way to, I don't know, not just think about the games you love, but your own like history and like what you've been doing. So highly recommend the show.
That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. Working as intended then.
Thanks everyone for listening. We plug enough stuff. Oh, and we also have to give a very special thanks to Corey and Nico for providing us a nice fancy updated version of our logo and our theme that fits the more of a Bond vibe. So thank you so much. We've been streaming on Twitch. We've been playing with our a lot of the multiplayer we've been describing. We've basically just been playing with our buddies on NSO, kind of taking turns playing through. We played through Blast Corps. We're playing Mario 64, or actually we just finished Mario 64. We're going to do some GoldenEye multiplayer just for fun. And at this point, we're going to go for getting gold medals and pilot wings. So
nice.
Go check out our Twitch and our YouTube also. We put up the VODs.
VODs.
Yeah.
Blast Corps got a highlights video.
A highlights vid, because we didn't do the whole game, but there was some fun. That's also just a ton of fun. But anyway, thanks to everybody for listening. I don't even know what's coming next. We got a lot of Bond. We got the racing games. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.